too. Like, why do people have to be pro-Israel or pro-Palestine? Like, I'm pro. I don't want to see kids get killed. I'm pro. I don't want to see innocent civilians get killed.
Innocent people, yeah.
I'm anti-war. Like, why do people have to pick a side? Like, I don't understand. Like,
I'll tell you why. At this moment, we can all say we don't want violence. I agree. You don't even have to know about the issue and be like, look, I just don't want to see anybody die. That's where I'm at this moment. I don't want to see another Israeli child dead. I don't want to see another Palestinian child dead. I don't want to see anybody die. Not just children, adults. I don't want nobody to die. But the problem is, if you say that you are pro-Israel as it is currently constituted, then you are saying that you are in support of a government that is systematically colonizing people, that is systematically displacing people, that is systematically stealing people's land, that is systematically ethnically cleansing people, as we see in Gaza right now. If those people leave Gaza and can't come back, they've been ethnically cleansed, right?
if you say you pro-Palestine, then they'll say you pro-Hamas.
Here's the difference. If I say I'm pro-Hamas, I'm saying I'm pro-Hamas, right? I can be pro-Palestinian and support Palestinian self-determination and still disagree with Hamas. The problem is Israel as it is constructed, Israel as it is defined, Israel by its own definition is not a state of all of its citizens. By virtue of being a Jewish state and by virtue of giving people different rights based on whether or not they are Jewish, by virtue of the fact that Palestinians have different rights and privileges, even those who are citizens of Israel. Arab citizens of Israel have different rights and rules, and they'll say that's a lie. There are Palestinians in our Knesset, there are Palestinian members in the Supreme Court. Palestinians have the exact same rights. There are about 60 laws on the books that show a difference, either facially or in practice, in terms of how people get treated based on whether or not they are Arab or not, even for Arab citizens of Israel. Right now, people in the West Bank don't have rights and freedoms. So the way Israel is constructed, it is by definition operating against the interests of Palestinian people. That's the difference. It would be like saying, I'm not anti-Indian, I'm just pro-United States. Mm-hmm. That'd be a hell of a thing to tell a Native American, right? Because the United States, by definition, by its construction, is created in a way that stomps on the rights of Native Americans here. So I can't say to I can't look at Native American in the eye and say, well, I don't pick a side. I'm neutral on this, right? I like Native Americans and I love what America created. Like, nah, bro, like, you got to pick one on that, right? And so it doesn't mean though that I have to hate Israelis or that I have to hate Jewish people. I don't hate either. I want everyone to live in peace, safety, dignity, self-determination, and justice. And that's important to be said.
I guess that's why I don't like conflating the two, Hamas and Palestinians, because Hamas charter literally does say they want to destroy Israel and kill Jewish people. That
was their charter, and I think that we can have an opposition to Hamas's charter. Mm-hmm. I think we can have an opposition to Hamas all the way and still support the Palestinian people. Again, Hamas is a government and an organization. They're not the Palestinian people, right?
I think that's what the confusion is.
But I think we can have a disagreement with the Israeli government, right? And I could say, hey, there are Israelis, there's Zionists, there are Jewish people here who say, look, I don't agree with the Israeli government, but I disagree with the government, but I support the government's right to exist. I hear you. What I'm saying is that the Jewish state as is constructed right now, Israel as is constructed right now, and as it was designed since 1948, was constructed in a way that depended upon the ethnic cleansing of Palestinian people, the settler colonizing of Palestinian people, and the continued dispossession of Palestinian people. And so that's the difference. This isn't about whether I agree with the government or not. Everybody has governments. Israel shouldn't be held to a higher standard or a lower standard. Israel should be held to the same standard as all governments. You can critique them, you can agree with them, you can support them, you can resist them, you can do all that stuff. I'm not against that. But I'm saying right now, Palestinian people have been dispossessed. They have been made stateless. They have been made refugees in their own home, and they've been made refugees around the world. And it's only getting worse. And so what we have to do right now is not just ask, how can we stop this violence? Which we should. I hope the violence stops tomorrow. But if we go back to the way we were 2 weeks ago, that also is an act of gross, of irresponsibility and really violence on our part, because Palestinians are getting treated like animals every single day.
Somebody might say, well, why are you so passionate about this? What, because you've been passionate about this for a long time now. So if somebody asks, well, why is Marc Lamont Hill so passionate, what would you tell them?
A couple of reasons. As an American citizen, my tax dollars go to it. I don't make as much money as y'all, but I pay a significant amount of taxes. So I feel like I'm even more culpable. My money goes to funding this occupation. I'm responsible for it as an American citizen. As a black person, I believe in justice everywhere. The week before I was grilling the Israeli minister and the Hamas minister, I was grilling the minister of Azerbaijan because I'm worried about what's happening to people there. Right, so it's not just Israel. Israel shouldn't be isolated. We should be focused on injustice everywhere. But the reason, in particular, why this issue comes to me is one, as somebody who studies the Middle East, it's a fascinating issue to me. But also, we don't give everybody $4 billion a year. You know what I mean? I might be pissed off at what's going on in Uzbekistan, but we don't put that much money in Uzbeki wallets. Right, so I think that's how you say it. So that's part of it as well. Also, there's a long history of solidarity of Palestinian people with black folks. Some people, they don't care about us. That's not true. Now, there's some stuff we got to work out, but Malcolm X cared about this issue. Malcolm X is my hero. So when Malcolm X cared about this issue, when he wrote a piece on this in the Egyptian Gazette called Zionist Logic, I cared in the fall of '64. I cared because Malcolm cared. Malcolm, and everybody here, go back and listen to Message to the Grassroots when Malcolm is talking about what a revolution looks like. And he was talking about us being connected globally, right? That's why I care about this issue. The Black Panthers cared about this issue. SNCC cared about this issue in the summer of '67. There's a lot of people, black freedom fighters who we admire. People say, be like Malcolm, be like Assata. People want to march and be like Huey. People want to be like Angela. They all cared about Palestine. So I'm following that tradition, but I'm not doing it blindly. They understood that our freedom, our liberation as a people had to require, it demanded us to be connected to people in other places who are oppressed. I can't get free if Palestine ain't free. I can't get free if South Africa ain't free. And unfortunately, that fight toward freedom will always alienate you. It'll always make you look marginal. It'll always make you look like the bad guy. Nelson Mandela spent 30 years in prison. He was in prison from 1964 until 1990. He became the president of South Africa. And he still was on the United States terror watch list until 2018. Until 2008. We had a black president here, and he was still on the terror list. He had been the president of a state. He'd been hailed around the world. He'd been at the Olympics. Everybody loved him. Everybody pretended that they didn't criminalize. And he was still on our country's terror list. So we got to be real careful about who we call a terrorist. We got to be real mindful of how we use that language of terror, because one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter. And that's not going to be taken out of context that I'm saying that I support what Hamas did. Again, I oppose what Hamas did. I oppose the killing of civilians. But what we're not going to do is pretend that oppressed people getting liberated by resisting violence in self-defense is an act of terrorism as such. We can't do that either.
Can you explain the relationship between America and Israel? Because you said, America gives them $4 billion a year. Why are they such strong allies?
It's a great question, and it's a question that lots of people ask. It's a relatively so initially the strongest supporter of Israel were the British, right? But then by the 1970s, certainly 1980s, and I talk about this in my book, Except for Palestine, a lot. And there's other people who write about this much better than me. Rashid Khalidi has a book called The 100 Years War. Noura Erakat has a book called Justice for Some. And there's many others. Ilan Pappé and others. I'd say read the Palestinians before you read me, and the Israelis before you read me. But there's a way that the United States, I'll get to the heart of it. The U.S. doesn't have feelings, it has interests. We watch violent atrocities happen in certain places and we don't say anything. We watch a small atrocity, and all atrocities are awful, happen in other places. I'm not talking about Israel right now. And we're outraged. Our outrage meter doesn't link to doesn't directly correspond to what people did. It corresponds to what we need, right? There's certain places where we're like, we got to go there and liberate the women. Right, but right now we're best friends with Saudi Arabia, which has a gross human rights record, particularly against women. And you talk about beheadings. Look at Saudi Arabia, right? They killed a journalist, Jamal Khashoggi, 5 years ago. We're on the anniversary of that. So we're selective. Israel operates as the United States' strategic outpost. So there's a friendly relationship between U.S. and Israel, but it also serves the U.S.'s military interests, because the U.S. wants a stake in the Middle East just like everybody wants a stake in the Middle East. And now you have the opportunity to have a nation that's not brown. Let me be clear. Israel it still has a majority of